I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from because what I'm about to tell you changed my life forever. I found my son living in his car with my twin grandsons in an airport parking lot. That's how I discovered his wife's betrayal. A betrayal so calculated, so cruel, that it nearly destroyed my entire family. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. The excitement I felt stepping off that plane at Toronto Pearson International Airport was almost childlike. I'd flown in from Vancouver specifically to surprise my son Riley for his 33rd birthday. I even brought his father's vintage Omega watch, the one Riley had admired since he was a boy. My husband had been gone 3 years now, and I thought it was time Riley had something meaningful of his father's. The March air hit me like a slap as I exited the terminal. Cold, but I didn't mind. I was going to see my son, my twin grandsons Nathan and Oliver, and yes, even my daughter-in-law Zoe. We'd never been particularly close, but I'd always tried. Always. I remember standing at the car rental counter practically bouncing on my heels like a teenager. The agent smiled at my enthusiasm. "Special occasion?" she asked. "My son's birthday," I said, signing the paperwork. "He has no idea I'm coming. He's a lucky man to have a mom who'd fly across the country." If only she knew how those words would haunt me hours later. I punched Riley's address into the GPS, the house in Mississauga he and Zoe had bought 2 years ago. I'd only visited once, right after they'd moved in. It was a beautiful place. 3 bedrooms, a backyard for the boys. Riley had been so proud, showing me around, pointing out the upgrades they'd made. The drive from the airport should have taken 30 minutes. I took my time rehearsing my surprise in my head. Would Riley cry? He'd always been emotional like his father. Would the boys remember me? I'd only seen them twice in the past year. Video calls didn't count. But when I pulled up to the address, something was wrong. The house looked different. The shutters were now black instead of white. There was a different car in the driveway, a BMW I didn't recognize. And through the front window I could see furniture I'd never seen before. My hands trembled as I checked the address on my phone. This was definitely it. 2847 Oakwood Drive. I sat in the rental car for a full 5 minutes trying to make sense of it. Maybe they'd redecorated, maybe Riley had bought a new car, but deep down I knew something was very wrong. I walked up to the front door anyway, knocked. A woman I'd never seen before answered, young, maybe 30, with a toddler on her hip. "Can I help you?" she asked, not unkindly. "I'm looking for Riley Whitmore and his wife Zoe. They live here." The woman's face shifted to sympathy. "Oh, honey. The Whitmores moved out about 3 months ago. We bought the house from them in February." The world tilted. "Moved?" My voice sounded far away. "Do you know where they went?" "No idea. The sale went through a real estate company. We never met them personally." I thanked her, walked back to my car, sat behind the wheel, staring at nothing. Riley hadn't told me they moved. 3 months. For 3 months, my son had been living somewhere else, and he hadn't said a word. I called his cell phone. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. "Riley, it's Mom. I'm in Toronto. At your old house, actually. Call me back, sweetheart. I need to talk to you." I tried Zoe's number next. Straight to voicemail. Not even a ring. That's when the fear really started to set in. I drove around Mississauga for an hour as if I might magically spot my son on a street corner. It was irrational, I knew. But I couldn't just leave. Couldn't just fly back to Vancouver without knowing my son was okay. Finally exhausted and confused, I headed back toward the airport. Maybe I'd get a hotel room nearby, try to figure out what to do next. Try calling again in a few hours. The long-term parking lot at Pearson is massive. Rows and rows of vehicles left by travelers. I wasn't really paying attention as I drove past it, my mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. Had something happened to Riley? Was he sick? In trouble? Then I saw it. A silver Honda Civic. Riley's car. I'd recognize it anywhere. There was a dent in the rear bumper from when he'd backed into a pole 2 years ago. He'd sent me a picture, joking about his terrible parking skills. The windows were fogged with condensation, and inside I could see movement. My heart stopped. Actually stopped. I pulled the rental car over so fast the tires screeched. Jumped out, ran across 3 rows of parked cars. The closer I got, the more details I could see. Blankets piled in the back seat, fast food bags on the floor, Children's toys scattered across the dashboard. I knocked on the window. Hard. The blankets stirred. A face appeared, bleary, confused, exhausted. Riley, my son, my baby, looking at me through that car window with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Pure, devastating shame. He opened the door slowly, carefully, trying not to wake whoever was sleeping next to him. But it was too late. Two small figures sat up, rubbing their eyes. Nathan and Oliver, 5 years old, sleeping in the back of a car in an airport parking lot. In March. "Grandma," Nathan's voice was small, confused. "What are you doing here?" I couldn't speak, literally couldn't form words. I was staring at my grandsons, my beautiful, innocent grandsons, wrapped in what looked like every blanket they owned, their little faces pale in the dim morning light. Riley stepped out of the car. He'd lost weight. His clothes were wrinkled like he'd slept in them for days, which I realized with horror he probably had. "Mom," he said. His voice cracked. How did you... What the hell is going on?" I found my voice, though it came out strangled. "Riley, why are you living in your car? Where's the house? Where's Zoe? Why are my grandsons sleeping in a parking lot in the middle of winter?" The boys were fully awake now, looking between us with worried eyes. Riley glanced at them, then back at me. "It's complicated." "Complicated?" I wanted to scream, but I kept my voice low for the boys' sake. "You're homeless, Riley. You're living in your car with 2 5-year-olds. Nothing about this is complicated. It's a disaster." Oliver started to cry. Quiet, hitching sobs that broke my heart into pieces. I immediately knelt down to their level. Hey, it's okay, sweetie. Grandma's here. Everything's going to be okay." Nathan, always the braver one, threw his arms around my neck. "We're on an adventure, Grandma. Daddy said we're camping." Oh, God. I looked up at Riley. He couldn't meet my eyes. "Boys," I said, keeping my voice gentle, "how about you and I go get some breakfast? I bet there's a really good pancake place inside the airport. Would you like that?" Both boys nodded eagerly. "Grandma makes the best pancake choices," Nathan announced to Oliver, as if this was a skill I was particularly known for. "Your dad and I need to talk grown-up stuff for a few minutes. Boring things. But then we'll all have pancakes together, okay?" I helped them out of the car, grabbed their little backpacks, and walked them toward the terminal. Riley followed behind us like a ghost. Tim Hortons. That's where we ended up. The boys attacked their pancakes like they hadn't eaten in days. Maybe they hadn't not properly anyway. Riley and I sat at a separate table where we could see them, but they couldn't hear us. "Talk," I said. He took a shaky breath. "Zoe left me 3 months ago." I gathered that much. "Why didn't you tell me?" I was ashamed. His voice was barely a whisper. "I thought I could fix it. Thought I could get her back. Get the house back. Get everything back to normal before you had to know." "Get the house back." I stared at him. "Riley, what happened to the house?" "She took it." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Actually, I gave it to her. Signed it right over like an idiot." "What are you talking about?" Riley rubbed his face with both hands. He looked 10 years older than he had the last time I'd seen him. "About 18 months ago, Zoe said we needed to restructure ownership for tax purposes. Something about how if the house was in her name only, we could save money on property taxes. She showed me paperwork from an accountant. Said it was standard practice for couples where one person ran a business. My blood ran cold. "You signed the house over to her." "I trusted her mom. She's my wife. Was my wife. I don't even know anymore." He paused. "Then one day last December I came home from work and the locks were changed. There was a restraining order taped to the door." I felt like I'd been punched. "A restraining order on what grounds?" "She claimed I was mentally unstable, dangerous, said I'd been threatening her, sending her scary text messages, acting erratic at work." His hands were shaking. "None of it was true, Mom. I swear to God none of it was true." "I know that, sweetheart. I know." I reached across the table and grabbed his hand. "But the courts believed her. She had evidence, or at least her lawyer said she did. Text messages I supposedly sent. Emails. She even had witnesses, her friends, her parents, all saying they'd seen me act crazy, seen me lose my temper, seen me be controlling." "That's insane. You've never been violent a day in your life." "I know, but she painted this picture, Mom. This whole elaborate story about how I was this unstable husband who needed help. And the judge The judge believed her. I was trying to process this, trying to understand. What about your business Bright Path Solutions? Riley's face crumbled. That's when I knew it was going to be even worse than I thought. Gone, he whispered. All of it. The $150,000 you invested. Everything. No. How? I managed. Zoe was our CFO. She managed all the finances. He pulled out his phone, showed me bank statements. Look at this. I looked. Transaction after transaction. Money being transferred out of the business account. She did this over 16 months, Riley explained. Small amounts at first. 500 here, 1,000 there. I barely noticed because business was good. We were making money. I thought we were saving it, reinvesting it, growing the company. But she was stealing it. Transferring it to her father's account, Douglas Whitmore. She labeled them as business loans, but there was never any loan agreement. No terms, no paperwork, just gone. And the day before she filed for the restraining order, she transferred out the last of it. The big amounts, everything we'd built. I felt sick, physically sick. How much total? Riley couldn't look at me. $330,000. I closed my eyes. My retirement money, Riley's business, years of work, gone. And the boys? My voice was steady, but inside I was screaming. What about Nathan and Oliver? Custody hearing was 2 weeks ago. Riley's voice broke. I lost Mom. I lost my sons. I only get to see them twice a week, and even that has to be supervised, at her parents' house, with her mother watching every move I make, writing down every word I say. On what grounds? The judge said I needed to prove stable housing and employment first. But how can I prove stable housing when she took all my money? I've been working barely. Part-time at my old company Tech Venture. They let me do contract work, but I'm making maybe 1/3 of what I used to make. How long have you been living in the car? 6 weeks. Before that, I stayed with my friend Tom for a month and a half, but his wife was pregnant. They needed the space. I couldn't impose anymore. Jesus, Riley. I shower at the gym, do laundry at the laundromat. The boys think we're on a camping adventure. I tell them stories at night about how we're explorers discovering new territory. His face twisted. I'm lying to my own children about why we're homeless. I wanted to cry, wanted to rage, wanted to drive straight to Zoe's house and no, that wouldn't help. I needed to think, needed to be smart. Where do you have these supervised visits? At the Whitmore's house, their mansion in Oakville. Douglas and Patricia Whitmore, Zoe's parents. I knew those names. Vaguely remembered Riley mentioning them. He's in real estate, right? Big developer, Whitmore Developments. They have money, Mom. Serious money. And they have lawyers. Good lawyers. I can't fight them. I tried. I got a legal aid attorney who barely looked at my case. We had one hearing and I lost everything. What did the supervised visits look like? Riley's laugh was bitter. Humiliating. Patricia sits in the corner with a notebook writing down everything. If I raise my voice even slightly, even if it's because the boys are excited and we're playing, she writes, "Father appeared agitated." If Nathan runs to hug me, she writes, "Physical contact seemed forced." She's building a case that I'm unfit, and I can't do anything about it. I sat back, my mind racing. This was worse than I'd imagined. So much worse. But then Riley said something that changed everything. I found something, he said quietly. In my spam folder. An email from 18 months ago. What kind of email? From Zoe's personal account to a family lawyer, asking about divorce procedures, custody laws, how to protect assets during a separation. He looked at me with hollow eyes. She planned this, Mom. Planned it for a year and a half. Every step. The house transfer, the financial moves, building her case against me. She knew exactly what she was doing. That was the moment I made my decision. Pack up your car, I said. What? Pack up your car. You and the boys are coming with me. Mom, I can't. You can and you will. I'm getting a hotel room, a suite. You and Nathan and Oliver will stay with me while we figure this out. I don't have money for... Did I ask you for money? My voice came out sharper than I intended. You're my son, Riley. Those are my grandsons. And I'll be damned if I let you spend another night in a parking lot. For the first time since I'd knocked on that car window, I saw something other than shame in Riley's eyes. Hope. The suite at the Sheraton Gateway cost me $400 a night. I didn't care. I would have paid $4,000. Nathan and Oliver were in heaven. They ran from room to room, marveling at the big beds, the fancy bathroom, the view of the airplanes taking off and landing. "Can we take a bath, Grandma?" Oliver asked, his eyes wide. "A real bath." "Of course, sweetie, with bubbles if you want." "We haven't had a bath in forever," Nathan announced matter-of-factly. "Just sink baths. Daddy calls them adventure washes." Riley looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I ran the bath, poured in the entire bottle of complimentary bubble bath, and let the boys play until their fingers were wrinkled. Riley sat on the edge of the tub watching them with this expression of wonder and grief mixed together. After they were clean in fresh pajamas I'd made Riley grab from the car, I tucked them into the king bed in the second bedroom. "Tell us a story, Grandma," Nathan requested. So I did. I told them about the time their daddy was their age and decided to build a rocket ship out of cardboard boxes. How he'd worked on it for weeks, convinced he could fly to the moon. How the neighbor's cat had gotten inside and torn it to pieces, and Riley had cried for hours. "But you know what?" I said, stroking Nathan's hair. "He built another one, a better one. Because your daddy never gives up. He's the bravest person I know." Riley was standing in the doorway, and I saw tears streaming down his face. Both boys were asleep within minutes. Actually asleep in a real bed with real pillows in a warm room. Not curled up in a freezing car pretending it was camping. I poured myself a glass of wine from the minibar. Riley declined, said he didn't drink anymore. Couldn't afford it, and needed to stay sharp. "Tell me about Zoe's family," I said. "Everything you know." Riley sat at the desk while I took the armchair. The city lights of Toronto glowed through the window. Douglas Whitmore started Whitmore Developments in the 90s. Built it from nothing into this empire. Shopping centers, apartment complexes, office buildings. He's worth, I don't know, tens of millions probably. And Patricia, old money. Her family owned land in Oakville going back generations. When she married Douglas, it was like the merger of two dynasties. Riley's voice was flat, emotionless. "They've never liked me. From day one. Said I wasn't good enough for Zoe." "Why did Zoe marry you then?" "I thought it was love." He laughed bitterly. "God, I was such an idiot. But looking back, I don't know. Maybe rebellion daddy's little girl marrying beneath her station, or maybe Douglas saw an opportunity." "What do you mean?" "I had the tech skills, the innovation, the ideas. Zoe had an MBA but no vision. When we started Bright Path Solutions, I was the one who built the product. But Zoe ran the business side. And slowly, gradually, she took control of everything. The bank accounts, the contracts, the legal structure. I was starting to see the picture. And you let her because you trusted her. Because I loved her. Because she was my wife and I thought that meant something." I set down my wine glass. "I need to make some phone calls tomorrow." "Mom?" "Don't mom me. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to find you the best family lawyer in Ontario. I don't care what it costs. I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm telling." I stood up, walked over to him. "Riley, listen to me. You are not alone anymore. You understand you're not alone." He broke down then. Really broke down. Sobbed like I hadn't seen him cry since he was a little boy. I held my son while he cried into my shoulder, and I made a promise. I would fix this. Whatever it took. However long it took. I would fix this. After Riley finally fell asleep on the couch, refusing to take the bed, insisting he was fine, I sat at the desk with my laptop. I Googled best family lawyers in Ontario, found lists, reviews, ratings, made notes. Then I Googled Douglas Whitmore. His company website was impressive. Professional photos, major developments, awards. But I dug deeper. News articles, public records. And there it was, buried in a business journal from 3 years ago. Whitmore Developments under investigation for suspicious financial transactions. The article was vague. Something about large cash deposits being flagged by Canada's Financial Intelligence Agency. No charges filed. Investigation closed due to insufficient evidence. But it was there. A crack in the perfect facade. I kept digging. Found more. A lawsuit from 2020. A former business partner claiming fraud. Case settled out of court. Record sealed. Douglas Whitmore wasn't clean. He was just good at hiding it. I pulled out my phone. It was late, but I didn't care. Called my old friend Paul Richardson in Vancouver. He'd been my lawyer for 30 years, helped me with everything from my will to my divorce after my husband died. Margaret, his voice was groggy. It's past midnight. I know, I'm sorry, but I need your help, Paul. I need the name of the absolute best family lawyer in Toronto, someone who can take on a high-conflict custody case with major financial components. I heard rustling like he was sitting up. What's going on? I told him everything. When I finished, there was a long silence. Jesus, Margaret, I'm so sorry. I don't need sorry, Paul. I need a name. Rebecca Hart, he said immediately. She's a shark. Specializes in exactly this kind of case custody disputes involving financial abuse, parental alienation, manipulation. She's expensive as hell, but she's worth every penny. How expensive? $450 an hour. Retainers probably $25,000. I didn't hesitate. Get me her number. Margaret, think about this. I have thought about it. My son is living in his car with my grandchildren. His wife stole over $300,000, including my retirement investment. She's manipulated the court system to separate him from his sons. I'm not thinking anymore, Paul. I'm acting. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll text you her contact information first thing in the morning. Margaret. Yeah. Good luck. And if you need anything at all, you call me. I hung up and stared at my laptop screen, at Douglas Whitmore's smiling photo on his company website. You have no idea what's coming, I whispered to the screen. I must have dozed off because I woke to small hands shaking my shoulder. Grandma, are you awake? I opened my eyes. Oliver was standing next to my chair, his stuffed bear clutched to his chest. I am now, sweetie. What's wrong? I had a bad dream. I pulled him onto my lap. He was so small, so light. Want to tell me about it? I dreamed we had to go back to the car, and it was cold, and Mommy was there, but she wouldn't let Daddy in. She said he had to stay outside. My heart broke. Oh, honey, that's not going to happen. I promise you. You're not sleeping in the car anymore. Really? Really, you're going to stay with Grandma for a while. Is that okay? He nodded against my chest. I like it here. It's warm. It is, isn't it? Grandma, Is Daddy sick? Mommy said he was sick. That's why we can't live with him. I had to choose my words carefully. Your daddy is not sick, Oliver. He's actually one of the healthiest people I know. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements. That's all. But why can't we all live together, like before? How do you explain betrayal to a 5-year-old? How do you tell a child that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest? Sometimes things change, I said gently. But the one thing that will never ever change is how much your daddy loves you, and how much I love you. Okay? Okay, he yawned. Can I sleep here with you? Of course. I carried him to my bed, tucked him in next to me. He was asleep in seconds, his little hand curled around my finger. I lay there in the dark, listening to Riley's quiet breathing from the couch, Oliver's soft snores beside me. Thought about Nathan sleeping soundly in the other room for the first time in weeks. This was my family, broken, battered, barely holding together, but still mine, and I would die before I let anyone hurt them again. Morning came too early. Nathan bounded into my room at 7, followed shortly by a much more subdued Riley. I'm hungry, Grandma. Can we have breakfast? We went to the hotel restaurant. I watched the boys demolish plates of scrambled eggs, bacon, and French toast while Riley picked at a piece of toast. You need to eat, I told him. I'm not hungry. I don't care. Eat anyway. He managed half the toast before giving up, but at least it was something. After breakfast, while the boys watched cartoons in the room, I made my calls. First was Rebecca Hart's office. Her assistant answered, and I explained briefly that I needed an emergency consultation regarding a custody case with financial fraud components. Ms. Hart's calendar is quite full, the assistant said politely. The earliest I could schedule you would be next Thursday. I'll pay double her rate for an emergency meeting today. Pause. Let me check with Ms. Hart and call you back. She called back 20 minutes later. Ms. Hart can see you at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Her office is downtown, and her consultation fee is $500 for the first hour. I'll be there. Next, I called my bank in Vancouver, explained I needed to wire transfer $25,000 immediately to hold a retainer for a lawyer. The banker was concerned. Mrs. Fletcher, this is a substantial sum. Are you sure, completely sure? How fast can you do it? If you authorize it now, it'll be in the recipient's account by end of business today. Do it. Then I started apartment hunting online. Found 3 possibilities in Mississauga 3-bedroom units available for immediate occupancy. Made appointments to view them that same afternoon. Riley watched me work with something like awe on his face. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Now get the boys ready. We're going to look at apartments after my lawyer meeting. I can't afford. Riley, stop. Please stop. Let me do this. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I'll pay you back. Every cent, I swear. I know you will. But right now we need to focus on getting you and those boys stable. Everything else comes after. Rebecca Hart's office was on the 40th floor of a glass tower downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. CN Tower visible in the distance. She was exactly what I expected. Mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She shook my hand with a grip that told me she wasn't someone who backed down. Mrs. Fletcher, tell me everything. Don't leave out details you think are insignificant. So I did. Told her about finding Riley in the parking lot. About the stolen money. The false allegations. The supervised visits. The planned betrayal 18 months in advance. Rebecca took notes on a legal pad, her expression never changing. When I finished, she set down her pen. This is financial coercive control combined with parental alienation, she said. I've seen cases like this before. It's a playbook. The isolation, the false accusations, the systematic removal of resources and credibility. Your daughter-in-law and her family have executed this very deliberately. Can we fight it? Yes, but it won't be fast and it won't be cheap. Family court moves slowly. We're looking at months, possibly over a year before final resolution. What do you need from me? Everything. Every document Riley has. Bank statements, emails, text messages, business records. I also need to do a forensic accounting analysis of the business finances. That alone will cost between $10,000 and $15,000. I didn't flinch. Do it. We'll also need to depose the witnesses who claimed Riley was unstable. Need to get medical records from his therapist. Need to challenge the restraining order. And we'll file an emergency motion to modify the custody arrangement. How soon? I can have the motion filed by Friday. Emergency hearing within 2 weeks if we're lucky. What are our chances? Rebecca's expression softened slightly. Mrs. Fletcher, I'm going to be honest with you. The fact that Riley has been homeless and unemployed works against us. Judges want stability for children. But the fact that you're here, that you can provide housing, that you're willing to support him, that helps tremendously. And if we can prove in the financial fraud, prove the allegations were false, we have a strong case. And if we can't prove it, then it becomes much harder. But I don't lose cases, Mrs. Fletcher. I fight like hell, and I win more often than not. That's what I wanted to hear. When can you start? I already have, she said, sliding a contract across her desk. This is my retainer agreement. $25,000. My rate is $4.50 an hour. If this goes to trial, expect to spend at least $60,000 to $70,000 total before it's done. I signed without reading it. I'd wire the money as soon as I got back to the hotel. One more thing, Rebecca said. I need Riley to come in tomorrow. I need to interview him directly, get his story, understand his mental state. Can you make that happen? He'll be here. She stood, extended her hand again. We're going to fix this, Mrs. Fletcher. Your son's wife made one critical mistake. What's that? She underestimated the power of a mother's love. I found an apartment that same afternoon. Quiet complex in Mississauga, 3 bedrooms recently renovated. Available immediately for $3,000 a month. I took it on the spot. Paid first and last month's rent in cash. The boys can each have their own room, I told Riley as we toured the empty space. And you'll have yours. I'll take the smaller one, I don't need much space. Mom, you can't live here. This was supposed to be temporary. You have your life in Vancouver. My life is wherever my family needs me to be. Right now, that's Toronto. Nathan and Oliver were running through the empty rooms, their voices echoing, making plans for where their toys would go, what color they wanted their bedrooms painted. Can I have dinosaurs, Grandma? Nathan asked. You can have whatever you want, sweetheart. Riley pulled me aside while the boys explored. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet. We have a long fight ahead of us. But why are you doing all this? I looked at him, really looked at him. My son. My beautiful, broken son who'd had everything stolen from him by someone who promised to love him. Because you're my son, I said simply. Because those are my grandsons. Because this is family. And family doesn't abandon each other. Ever. He hugged me then, held on like I was the only solid thing in a world that had tilted sideways. Maybe I was. The next 3 days were a whirlwind. I furnished the apartment with IKEA furniture that Riley and I spent 2 full days assembling. Bought beds, dressers, a kitchen table, dishes, towels, everything. The boys helped pick out their bedding. Nathan chose dinosaurs, Oliver picked outer space. I registered them at Tompkin Road Middle School. Met with the principal, Mrs. Chen. Damn, I wasn't supposed to use that name. Mrs. Anderson. Explained the situation carefully without going into too much detail. The boys have been through some instability, I said. Their father has custody, but they've been living in temporary situations. We're establishing a stable home now. Mrs. Anderson was understanding. We see this more often than you'd think, Mrs. Fletcher. The boys will do fine. We have excellent counselors if they need additional support. I found a pediatrician, Dr. Sarah Kim, at Mississauga Family Medical. Booked appointments for Nathan and Oliver for the following week. They needed checkups, needed to be established with a doctor. I bought groceries, filled the cupboards and fridge with real food, fresh fruit, vegetables, things Riley could actually cook instead of just fast food and gas station sandwiches. And every night after the boys were in bed, Riley and I worked on gathering documents for Rebecca. He had more than I expected. Emails from Zoe about the business, text message screenshots, bank statements he'd downloaded before being locked out of the accounts, the business plan I'd reviewed when I invested, incorporation papers. But there were also gaps, huge gaps where Zoe had controlled everything and left no paper trail. We'll work with what we have, I said. Rebecca will know what to do. Riley's meeting with Rebecca went well. She spent 3 hours with him going through every detail of his marriage, the business, the breakdown. When he came back to the apartment, he looked drained. She's intense, he said. Good, we need intense. She asked me about my therapy, about Dr. Patel. What did you tell her? The truth, that I went because I was stressed about the startup, about balancing work and family, about money pressures, never because I was violent or unstable. Did Dr. Patel keep notes? Detailed ones. Rebecca's office is getting my release form signed tomorrow so they can request the records. This was good. This was all good. But I could see the toll it was taking on Riley. He barely slept, barely ate, moved through the apartment like a ghost, unable to fully believe this was real. It's going to fall apart, he said one night. This is too good. Something's going to happen and it'll all fall apart. No, I said firmly. We're not doing that. We're not catastrophizing. We're taking this one day at a time, one step at a time. I just keep thinking about the hearing. What if the judge doesn't believe us? What if I lose the boys again? Then we appeal. Then we keep fighting. Riley, listen to me. I have spent my entire life building things. I was an architect for 35 years. Do you know what that taught me? He shook his head. That you start with a foundation. Strong, solid, unmovable. Then you build up from there. That's what we're doing. We're building your foundation again. And this time no one is going to knock it down. Things were going well. Too well. I should have known something would happen. Riley had been applying for jobs. Real jobs, not just contract work. He had interviews lined up at 3 different tech companies, all positions that would pay well enough to support him and the boys. The first interview seemed to go great. The hiring manager even called him back for a second round. Then Riley got an email. Thank you for your interest in the position. Unfortunately, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. Fine, it happens. The second interview, same thing. Positive meeting, then rejection. By the 3rd rejection, Riley was spiraling. It's her, he said, pacing the apartment. I know it's her. Someone's telling these companies something. You don't know that. Mom, I'm a good candidate. I have the experience, the skills, the references. There's no reason they'd all reject me unless someone's poisoning the well. I wanted to tell him he was being paranoid, but then he showed me his LinkedIn messages. Someone in an anonymous account had sent messages to the HR departments at all 3 companies. Screenshots of what appeared to be court documents showing Riley's restraining order. Claims that he was currently involved in legal proceedings regarding domestic violence and child custody. None of it was true. The restraining order was based on false allegations. There was no domestic violence. but the damage was done. How do we fight this? Riley asked desperately. We tell the truth. We provide context. And Rebecca will file harassment charges against whoever's doing this. But I knew the real answer. This was Zoe, or her family, making sure Riley couldn't rebuild. The supervised visit that week was worse. I drove Riley to the Whitmore mansion in Oakville. I'd never seen the place before. It was exactly what I expected, massive, pristine, with actual iron gates and a fountain in the circular driveway. I'll wait in the car, I said. You can come in. They don't care. I care. This is your time with the boys. But 2 hours later, when Riley came back out, his hands were shaking. What happened, Patricia? His voice was tight with rage. She wrote down every single thing. The boys ran to hug me. She wrote, children seemed forced to show affection. Nathan told me about school. She wrote, father asked inappropriate questions about daily activities. I played blocks with them. She wrote, father appeared distracted and agitated. That's ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous, but that's what she's doing. Building a file, creating evidence that I'm unfit. He slammed his hand against the dashboard. And I can't do anything about it. If I object, I look controlling. If I ask questions, I look suspicious. I'm trapped. I hated seeing him like this. Hated watching him be systematically destroyed by people who were supposed to be family. We record the next visit, I said. What, yo? You heard me? We record it. Audio at minimum. Rebecca can advise on the legality, but if we can prove Patricia is lying in her notes, it'll help our case. Riley looked at me with something like admiration. You're scary when you're determined you know that... Good. Zoe's family should be scared. But the worst was yet to come. Nathan's school called 3 days later. There'd been an incident. Nathan had punched another kid. I drove to the school immediately, my heart pounding. This was exactly the kind of thing that could be used against us. Evidence that the boys were struggling, that Riley couldn't provide stability. Principal Anderson met me in her office along with Nathan and the other child, a boy named Connor. What happened? I asked. Connor spoke up first. I told Nathan his dad was bad. My mom said so. I felt my blood pressure spike. And what did Nathan do? He punched me in the stomach. Nathan was crying, silent tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Grandma, but he said Daddy was bad. And Daddy's not bad. He's the best daddy. Oh, sweetheart. Connor, I said gently, your mom doesn't know Nathan's daddy. She was wrong to say that. And Nathan, honey, I know you were defending your dad, but hitting isn't okay. I know, Nathan sobbed, but I was so mad. Principal Anderson was kind but firm. Nathan will need to be suspended for 2 days. School policy on physical violence. I understand. However, she looked at Connor. Connor, you need to understand that making hurtful comments about someone's family is also not acceptable. I'll be calling your mother to discuss this as well. After Connor left, Principal Anderson pulled me aside. Mrs. Fletcher, I see this a lot. Children acting out because of trauma or stress at home. Nathan is clearly struggling with his family situation. Have you considered therapy? We're looking into it, I said, and I was. Rebecca had already recommended a child psychologist. I took Nathan home. Riley was devastated when I told him. This is my fault, he said. If I could just give them stability. This is not your fault. This is the fault of people spreading lies about you. I knelt down to Nathan's level. Sweetheart, can I talk to you about what happened? Nathan nodded, wiping his eyes. I know you were defending your daddy, and I love that you love him so much. But when people say mean things, hitting them doesn't make the mean things stop. You know what does what? Showing them they're wrong. When people see how great your daddy is, when they see how happy you are with him, that proves they're wrong. That's the best revenge. Okay. Okay, Grandma. But inside I was furious. Furious at the whisper campaigns, the lies being spread, the way Zoe's family was poisoning the community against my son. This ended. Now. That night after the boys were asleep, I made a phone call. Detective Sarah Morrison, an old friend from Vancouver who'd moved to Toronto 5 years ago. We'd kept in touch, Christmas cards, the occasional phone call. Sarah, it's Margaret Fletcher. Margaret, long time. What's going on? I need a favor. A big one. I told her everything. The whole story. When I finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Margaret, I can't officially investigate this. It's not my jurisdiction, and without evidence of a crime. I'm not asking you to investigate officially. I'm asking you to check. Just check. Douglas Whitmore. See if there's anything in the system. Any red flags. Another pause. This is really off the books. I know, and I wouldn't ask if it weren't important. Let me see what I can find. Give me a few days. Thank you, Sarah. Margaret, be careful. If this family is as connected as you say, poking around could backfire. I'm already in too deep to be careful, but I appreciate the warning. I hung up and stared out the window at the Toronto skyline. Somewhere out there, Zoe was sleeping peacefully in her parents' mansion, confident she'd won, that Riley would stay broken, that she'd keep the boys, that the money would stay hidden. She had no idea what was coming, because I wasn't just a mother fighting for her son anymore. I was a woman who'd spent 3 decades building impossible structures out of blueprints and determination, and I was about to build the strongest case this family had ever seen. Sarah called back 3 days later. Margaret, we need to talk in person. My stomach dropped. What did you find? Not over the phone. Can you meet me for coffee? There's a place near your apartment, the Daily Grind on Dundas. I was there in 20 minutes. Sarah looked older than I remembered. More gray in her hair, deeper lines around her eyes. But her handshake was still firm, her gaze still sharp. Douglas Whitmore has been investigated twice, she said, sliding a folder across the table. Once in 2019, once in 2021. Both times by FinTrack, that's Canada's Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center. For what? Large suspicious cash deposits. Amounts that triggered automatic reporting requirements. Both times the investigation was closed due to insufficient evidence. I opened the folder. Bank records heavily redacted. Transaction reports. Pages of numbers I barely understood. What does this mean? It means Douglas Whitmore moves money in ways that raise red flags. It doesn't prove he's committing crimes, but it suggests he's not entirely clean. Sarah leaned forward. There's more. In 2020, a business partner named Robert Chen, damn sorry Robert Harrison, sued him for fraud. The case never went to trial. Settled out of court. Records sealed. Can we access those records? Not without a court order. But Margaret, she tapped the folder. This establishes a pattern. Your daughter-in-law's father has a history of questionable financial dealings. If your lawyer can connect this to what happened to Riley's business, it strengthens your case significantly. I thought about the $330,000, about Zoe's systematic transfers, about how Douglas had received most of that money in his accounts. Rebecca needs to see this, they said. I never gave you this folder. Understand what folder? Sarah smiled grimly. Good luck, Margaret. You're going to need it. These people don't play fair. Rebecca's reaction to the information was immediate. This is exactly what I needed, she said, spreading the documents across her conference table. We can't use these directly. They were obtained through unofficial channels, but we can use them as a roadmap. Tell us where to look, what to request through proper legal discovery. She picked up her phone, dialed. Martin Rebecca Hart. I need you in my office this afternoon. I'm sending over a major case. Who's Martin? I asked. Martin Rodriguez, best forensic accountant in Toronto. If there's money hidden, he'll find it. Martin arrived 2 hours later, late 30s, sharp suit, carrying a laptop and looking like he hadn't slept in days. Rebecca laid out the situation. Martin listened, taking notes on his laptop. I'll need access to all business accounts, he said. Bank statements, transaction records, tax returns, business filings. Everything Riley has and everything we can subpoena from the wife. How long will this take? I asked. Depends on what I find. If it's straightforward embezzlement, maybe 3 weeks. If it's more complex offshore accounts, shell companies' money laundering could be 2 months. We don't have 2 months. Then I'll work fast. Martin looked at Riley, who'd been silent the whole meeting. Mr. Whitmore, I need you to remember everything. Every conversation about money. Every time your wife mentioned the business accounts. Every unusual transaction you noticed. Can you do that? Riley nodded. I kept emails. Not all of them, but some. And I have text messages going back 18 months. Perfect. Send me everything tonight. I'll start in the morning. While Martin worked on the finances, Rebecca sent me on a different mission. I need you to talk to Riley's former colleagues, she said. People who worked with him and Zoe. Get their perspectives on the relationship, on Riley's behavior, on Zoe's behavior. See if anyone noticed anything unusual. So I became an investigator. First stop Tech Venture Inc., where Riley used to work before starting Bright Path Solutions. Riley's old boss, Jeff Morrison, met me in the lobby. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. Mrs. Fletcher, Riley's told me about you. I'm glad he has family supporting him through this. I need to ask you about my son, about how he was when he worked here. Jeff's expression turned serious. Riley was one of the best developers I ever hired. Calm under pressure, great with the team. When he left to start his own company, I was sad to see him go, but thrilled for him. Did you ever see him act unstable, aggressive, anything that would suggest violence? God, no. Never. Riley's the guy who mediates conflicts, not creates them. When we had tense deadlines, stressed out team members, Riley was always the voice of reason. Jeff paused. Is this about Zoe's accusations? You know about them. Riley told me when he came back asking for contract work. I didn't believe a word of it. That's why I hired him back even part-time, because I know Riley Whitmore, and he's not the person Zoe described. Would you be willing to testify to that? Absolutely. Whatever you need. Next, I tracked down Tom Williams, Riley's former business partner at Bright Path Solutions. Tom ran a small consulting firm, now working out of a cramped office above a dry cleaner. He stood when I entered, tall and lanky with nervous energy. You must be Riley's mom. He said you might come by. I need to know about Zoe, about what you saw. Tom sat down heavily. I saw a lot, more than I should have ignored. What do you mean? Zoe was our CFO, like Riley told you. But she wasn't just managing money, she was controlling it. Every decision went through her. Every expense. Every vendor contract. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through old messages. Look at this. He showed me a text exchange from 2 years ago. Tom, we need to hire another developer. Budget allows it. Zoe, no. We're reinvesting profits into growth. Tom, what growth? You haven't told us what you're investing in. Zoe, that's not your concern. Trust the process. She stonewalled us, Tom said. Anytime Riley or I asked about where money was going, she'd say it was strategic investment or business development. We trusted her because she had the MBA, the financial background, and because she was Riley's wife. Did you ever see her be volatile with Riley? Tom's jaw tightened. Once we were in the office late, probably about a year ago. Riley said something about wanting to bring in an outside accountant to review our books. Just standard practice for a growing business. Zoe lost it. Lost it how? Screaming. Threw her laptop across the room. Said Riley was undermining her, that he didn't trust her, that she'd sacrificed her career for his little hobby company. Tom's voice was quiet. Riley just stood there and took it. Apologized. Said she was right, they didn't need an outside accountant. My hands clenched into fists. Would you testify about this? I'd love to. Zoe destroyed our company and nearly destroyed Riley in the process. Whatever I can do to help, I'm in. The third person I talked to was Lisa Thompson, Brightpath's former administrative assistant. She met me at a Starbucks looking nervous. Young, maybe 25, with her hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. I don't want any trouble, Mrs. Fletcher. I signed an NDA when I left the company. You're not violating the NDA by talking to me about what you personally witnessed. I'm not asking for proprietary business information, just your observations. Lisa bit her lip. Okay, what do you want to know? Tell me about the money, about what Zoe did with it. I shouldn't have seen it, Lisa said quietly, but I processed some of the transfers. Zoe would send me wire transfer forms, tell me they were for vendors or contractors, but the account numbers didn't match any of our regular suppliers. Did you ask about it? Once. She told me it was none of my business, and if I brought it up again, I'd be fired. Lisa looked down at her coffee. I needed the job, so I didn't ask again. Do you remember any of those account numbers? Any names? One was labeled Whitmore Holdings. I remember because I thought it was weird. Why would we be sending money to something with the same last name as Zoe? But when I looked it up later, it was registered to Douglas Whitmore, her father. There it was. Direct testimony that Zoe had been transferring company money to her father's accounts. Lisa, would you be willing to provide this information under oath? She was quiet for a long time. Then, if you subpoena me, I have to answer truthfully, right? That's right. Then have your lawyer subpoena me. That way I can't be accused of violating the NDA voluntarily. Smart girl. While I was building our case, the boys were building their new lives. Nathan threw himself into school with the same enthusiasm he threw himself into everything. made friends immediately, came home every day with stories about recess adventures and art projects. Oliver was quieter, more withdrawn. His teacher, Mrs. Patterson, called me after the first week. "Oliver is doing fine academically," she said, "but he seems sad. During free time, he sits by himself, doesn't engage much with the other children. He's been through a lot of changes recently. I understand. Would you consider having him see our school counselor just to talk? It might help." I agreed immediately. The school counselor, Mr. James Patterson, no relation to the teacher, was exactly what Oliver needed. Gentle, patient, with an office full of toys and art supplies. After Oliver's first session, Mr. Patterson pulled me aside. "Oliver drew a picture today," he said, showing me. "This is his family." The drawing showed Riley, me, Nathan, and Oliver, all smiling, all holding hands. In the corner, separated by what looked like a wall, was a figure labeled Mommy. She had tears coming down her face. "What does this tell you?" I asked. "That Oliver feels torn. He loves his mother, but he also feels safer where he is now. That conflict is hard for a 5-year-old to process." "What can I do?" "Keep doing what you're doing. Provide stability. Don't badmouth his mother, let him have his feelings about her without judgment. And be patient. Kids are resilient. Given time and safety, they heal." But stability was harder than it looked. Nathan had nightmares, would wake up screaming that we were back in the car, that it was cold, that Daddy was gone. Riley would rush to his room, hold him until the shaking stopped. "It's okay, buddy. We're safe. We're home. This is real." "Promise?" "I promise." Oliver was different. He didn't have nightmares. Instead, he became obsessed with locks. Every night before bed, he'd check that the apartment door was locked. Then check again. Then ask me to check. "What if someone comes and takes us away?" he'd ask. "No one is going to take you away, sweetheart." "But Mommy took us away from Daddy before." How do you explain custody battles to a kindergartner? "That was different," I said carefully. "Right now, you're with your daddy and Grandma, and we're going to make sure you stay safe. Can we get extra locks like the kind on hotel doors?" I bought extra locks the next day, installed them myself, let Oliver test them, make sure they worked. It seemed to help. Dr. Patterson, the child psychologist, Rebecca, had recommended both boys once a week. After their third session, she asked to speak with Riley and me together. "The boys are processing trauma," she said gently. "The instability of the past few months, the separation from their mother, the loss of their home. It's a lot for young children." "Are they going to be okay?" Riley's voice cracked. "Yes, children are remarkably resilient, but they need consistency, routine, and they need to feel safe expressing their emotions without fear of punishment or judgment." "We're trying," I said, "but it's hard. I don't always know the right thing to say. There often isn't a right thing. The important thing is being present, listening, letting them know that whatever they feel is valid." Dr. Patterson looked at Riley. "How are you doing, Dad?" Riley stopped, started again. "I'm barely holding it together." "That's honest, and it's okay to struggle. But the boys can sense your stress. When you're overwhelmed, they become overwhelmed. You might consider therapy for yourself, too." "I don't have time." "You don't have time not to," Dr. Patterson interrupted gently. "Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup." Riley agreed to try. Started seeing a therapist twice a week. The difference was subtle but real. He slept a little better, ate a little more, started to look less like a ghost haunting our apartment. Meanwhile, I established routines. Every morning, breakfast together. Real breakfast eggs, toast fruit. Not grabbed on the run. After school, snacks at the kitchen table while the boys told me about their day. Evenings, homework. Dinner. Bath time. Stories. Bed by 8:30. Weekends, parks. Libraries. Museums. Normal family activities. And slowly, gradually, I watched my grandsons come back to life. Nathan's laugh returned. That big, joyful belly laugh that had been missing for months. Oliver started drawing again. Not just sad pictures of separated families, but dinosaurs and spaceships and elaborate fantasy worlds. One Saturday, we went to the Toronto Zoo. It was cold but sunny. The boys ran from exhibit to exhibit, delighted by everything. "Grandma, look, polar bears. Can we see the penguins next?" Daddy, take a picture of me with the lion. Riley took approximately 300 photos. His first real smile in months stretched across his face. On the drive home, both boys fell asleep in the back seat. Riley looked at them in the rearview mirror, then at me. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For giving them their childhood back." 4 weeks after Martin started his investigation, he called Rebecca. "I need everyone in my office. Tomorrow morning. I found something big." We gathered in a conference room at Martin's firm, Emmy, Riley, Rebecca, and Rebecca's associate, a sharp young woman named Jennifer Park. Martin had 3 computer monitors set up, all displaying different spreadsheets and charts. "I've traced every dollar that moved through BrightPath Solutions accounts for the past 24 months, he began. "And what I found is systematic, deliberate embezzlement." He clicked to the first screen. "Here's the initial investment from Mrs. Fletcher. $150,000 transferred January 15th, 2 years ago. Goes into the business operating account. All legitimate." Next screen. Here's where it gets interesting. Starting 6 months later, we see regular transfers out of the operating account. Small amounts at first. The screen showed dozens of highlighted transactions. $500, $800, $1,000. These are labeled as consulting fees, marketing expenses, software licenses, normal business expenses, except... Martin clicked again. None of these vendors exist. The consulting company registered to a P.O. box in the Cayman Islands. The marketing firm, Shell Company. The software licenses purchased from a company owned by Douglas Whitmore. Riley's face had gone white. "It gets worse," Martin continued. "Over 16 months, Zoe transferred a total of $330,000 out of the business. That includes your initial investment, Mrs. Fletcher, plus business revenue." He showed us a chart. A red line showing money flowing out month by month, accelerating over time. "Where did it go?" Rebecca asked. 60% to an account registered to Whitmore Holdings, that's Douglas Whitmore's investment company. The rest to an offshore account in Zoe's name. Martin pulled up bank statements. But here's what's really damning. The transfers to Douglas's account are labeled business loan. But look at this. He showed us a document. "I subpoenaed Douglas Whitmore's company records. There's no loan agreement, no terms, no interest rate, no repayment schedule. Nothing that would indicate this was a legitimate business transaction." "So it's fraud," I said. "Textbook embezzlement," Martin confirmed. "But there's more." He pulled up another screen. This one showed Douglas's account activity. 3 days after receiving the final transfer from BrightPath Solutions, that's the big one, the $50,000 payment, Douglas transferred $90,000 to an account in the Cayman Islands. An account registered to something called Whitmore Family Trust. "Let me guess," Rebecca said. "There's no such trust." "Oh, there is. But it's not a legitimate family trust. It's a shell entity designed to hide assets offshore. And guess who the beneficiaries are?" "Douglas and Zoe," Riley said hollowly. "Exactly. This isn't just about stealing from your business, Mr. Whitmore. This is organized financial crime. Douglas Whitmore has been using his daughter's marriage to you as a vehicle for fraud and money laundering." The room was silent. Rebecca spoke first. "Martin, this is incredible work. Can you testify to all of this?" "I can and I will. I have documentation for every transaction, every shell company, every suspicious transfer. This is airtight." "Then we're not just fighting a custody battle anymore," Rebecca said. "We're talking criminal charges, fraud, embezzlement, potentially money laundering." She turned to me and Riley. "This changes everything. The Crown Attorney's Office will want to see this. The Canada Revenue Agency will want to see this. Douglas Whitmore is looking at serious jail time." Riley finally spoke. "What about Zoe?" "She was the one making the transfers. She's culpable too. Whether she was acting on her own or following her father's instructions, she committed crimes." "And the boys?" Riley's voice shook. "What happens to Nathan and Oliver if their mother goes to prison?" Rebecca's expression softened. "That actually strengthens your custody case significantly. The court won't award custody to someone facing criminal charges." We should have known she'd fight back. 2 days after Martin presented his findings, Zoe's lawyer Trevor Harding filed an emergency motion. Rebecca called me at 7 in the morning. "They're claiming Riley kidnapped the boys. What emergency motion filed last night? Claims Riley has been denying Zoe access to the children, that they've been living with a stranger without proper notification to the court, that Riley is violating the custody order." That's insane. Riley's been taking the boys to every supervised visit. I know, but they're asking the court to suspend all of Riley's parenting time immediately and launch an investigation into your background. My blood ran cold. When's the hearing? Friday, 3 days from now. But the legal maneuvering was just the beginning. That afternoon, Riley's phone started blowing up. Screenshots from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Zoe had posted in a private Facebook group called Mississauga Moms, except it wasn't that private. Over 3,000 members. The post showed a photo of Nathan and Oliver from 2 years ago, smiling in their Halloween costumes. My beautiful boys have been taken from me by my abusive ex-husband. He's hiding them with an elderly woman in an undisclosed location. If anyone sees these children, please contact me immediately. I just want my babies safe. The comments were vicious. Oh my God, that's terrible. Have you called the police? Men who abuse their wives always use the children as weapons. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I think I saw those boys at Tompkin Road School. Should I report it? Riley was shaking as he read them. She's destroying my reputation. Everyone's going to think I'm some kind of monster. Don't engage, I said. Don't respond. We'll let Rebecca handle it. But the damage was spreading. Screenshots of the post appeared on other social media platforms. Local Toronto parenting groups, community forums. People I didn't know were talking about my son like he was a criminal. Then things got worse. I was at the grocery store when I felt someone watching me. Turned around to see a woman I vaguely recognized, maybe a neighbor. You're the grandmother, aren't you? She said. Not friendly, accusing. I'm sorry. Those boys, the ones whose mother is looking for them, you're hiding them. My heart pounded. I don't know what you're talking about. I saw the Facebook post. I've seen those children with you. You should be ashamed of yourself helping that man keep children from their mother. Other shoppers were starting to stare. Ma'am, I don't think you have all the facts. I have enough facts. You're aiding and abetting parental kidnapping. I should call the police right now. I wanted to scream the truth. Tell her about the stolen money, the false allegations, the systematic abuse. But Rebecca's voice echoed in my head. Don't engage. Have a nice day, I said quietly, and walked away with whatever dignity I could muster. But my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my car keys. That evening, Riley got a call from Tech Venture. We need to talk, Jeff Morrison said. Can you come in tomorrow? Am I being fired? Just come in, please. Riley went the next morning, came back 2 hours later, his face ashen. They're putting me on indefinite leave. What, why? Someone sent an anonymous email to their HR department. Screenshots of the court documents about the restraining order, links to Zoe's Facebook post, claims that I'm under investigation for child abuse and domestic violence. But Jeff knows you. He said he'd testify for you. Jeff tried to defend me, but the CEO overruled him, said they can't have someone with active legal issues involving violence associated with the company. Bad for their reputation. Riley's voice was hollow. I'm not fired, just suspended, without pay, until the legal issues are resolved. We'd gone from building. The emergency hearing was Friday at 9 a.m. I dressed carefully, conservative suit, minimal jewelry. I wanted to look respectable, stable, trustworthy. Riley wore the one good suit he owned, looking like he might throw up. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Justice Michael Thompson presiding, a stern-looking man in his 50s. Trevor Harding presented Zoe's case first. Your Honor, my client has been denied access to her children for over a month. The children are living with Mr. Whitmore's mother in an apartment we weren't notified about. My client has no way to verify the children's safety or well-being. Your Honor, Rebecca stood. That's completely false. Mr. Whitmore has attended every supervised visit as scheduled. We have documentation. She handed papers to the clerk. These are sign-in sheets from the Whitmore residence showing Mr. Whitmore arrived on time for every visit, Rebecca continued. As for the living arrangements, we filed a change of address notification with the court 3 weeks ago. Here's the file-stamped copy. Mrs. Whitmore's lawyer received it. Trevor looked uncomfortable. Your Honor, while technically notice may have been given, either notice was given or it wasn't Mr. Harding. Which is it, notice was given, but then that part of your motion is moot. Small victory. But then the judge turned to Rebecca. However, Ms. Hart, I am concerned about the children living with someone who hasn't been background checked by the court. Your Honor, Mrs. Fletcher is the children's biological grandmother. She has no criminal record. We're happy to provide a background check. Rebecca handed over more papers. In fact, we anticipated this concern. Here's Mrs. Fletcher's background check completed last week. Completely clean. The judge reviewed it, looked at me for the first time. Mrs. Fletcher, stand please. I stood, my knees shaking. Why are you involved in this case? Because those are my grandsons, Your Honor, and my son needed help. Are you aware of the serious allegations against your son? I am, Your Honor, and I believe they're false. That's not for you to determine. No, Your Honor, but I know my son. I've known him for 33 years, and I know he would never hurt those children. The judge was quiet for a moment. Then, where are the children now? In school, Your Honor, Rebecca said. Nathan and Oliver are enrolled at Tompkin Road Middle School. They've been attending regularly. We have attendance records, teacher evaluations showing they're adjusting well. More papers exchanged. The judge read through them, then asked the question that changed everything. Mrs. Whitmore. He looked directly at Zoe, who sat next to Trevor. Did you know where your children were for the past month? Zoe looked startled. No, Your Honor. Their father hid them from me. That's interesting, because according to court records, your ex-husband provided this address in his response to your original custody filing. That was 3 weeks ago. Did your lawyer not inform you? Trevor and Zoe exchanged glances. I may not have been told, Zoe stammered. So either your lawyer failed to communicate with you, or you did know where they were and chose to file this emergency motion anyway. Which is it? Silence. Your Honor, Trevor said quickly, there may have been a miscommunication that resulted in an emergency motion and allegations of kidnapping. The judge's voice was cold. Mr. Harding, I don't appreciate my time being wasted. He looked down at his notes, then made his ruling. Mr. Whitmore's current arrangement with the children will continue. The children will remain in his care and the care of his mother. Supervised visits at the Whitmore residence will also continue as scheduled. Zoe's face crumbled. However, the judge continued, I am ordering both parties to refrain from posting about this case on social media. Any violations will be considered contempt of court. Is that understood? Both lawyers nodded. Full custody hearing will proceed as scheduled in 2 months. This emergency motion is denied. He struck his gavel. We'd won. Not the whole case, but this battle. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca pulled us aside. That went better than I hoped. Judge Thompson clearly saw through their tactics. What about Zoe's Facebook post? I asked. She'll have to take it down, and if she posts again, we can file contempt charges. And Riley's job? That's trickier. But once we prove the allegations are false, he should be able to get reinstated. In the meantime, Rebecca hesitated. Margaret, I hate to ask, but I'll support them, however long it takes. Riley started to protest. I held up my hand. We're family. That's what family does. That night there was a knock at our apartment door. I looked through the peephole. A woman I didn't recognize. Blonde, professional-looking, maybe 35. Can I help you? I asked through the door. Mrs. Fletcher, my name is Katie Brennan. I need to talk to you about Douglas Whitmore. I opened the door slowly. Who are you? I used to work for him. 5 years ago. I was an accountant at Whitmore Developments. She looked nervous. I saw the news coverage of your custody case, and I need to tell you something important. I let her in. Katie sat at our kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee I'd made her. Douglas Whitmore is a fraud, she said bluntly. I witnessed him creating fake loan documents, moving money into offshore accounts, cooking the books on multiple projects. When I threatened to report it, he fired me and threatened to sue me into oblivion. I signed an NDA to make it go away. Why are you telling me this now? Because I saw what he's doing to your son, and it's exactly what he did to his last business partner in 2020. Used his daughter, not Zoe, his niece, to marry the guy, get access to his money, then systematically steal everything. My blood ran cold. This is a pattern he's perfected over years, and I kept quiet because I was scared. But I can't anymore. Not when I see him destroying another family. Would you testify about this? If you subpoena me, the NDA becomes void. I'd have to testify truthfully. And I have documents, copies of everything I saw. I kept them as insurance. She pulled a flash drive from her purse. This is 5 years of proof that Douglas Whitmore is a con artist. Use it. After Katie left, I immediately called Rebecca. We need to meet, I said. Tonight, I have something that changes everything. Rebecca's advice was simple. Record everything. Ontario law allowed one-party consent for audio recordings in semi-public spaces, and the Whitmore mansion had signs posted at the entrance. Premises under audio and video surveillance for security purposes. They'd hung those signs to protect themselves. Now those signs would protect us. Riley started recording every supervised visit on his phone. The first recording was heartbreaking to listen to. Nathan's voice excited. "Daddy, we made volcanoes at school with baking soda." Riley. "That's so cool, buddy. Did yours erupt?" Nathan. "Yeah, it went everywhere and Mrs. Anderson said it was the best one." Patricia Whitmore's voice cold. Nathan indoor voice. "You're being too loud." Nathan quieter. "Sorry, Grandma Patricia." Riley. "It's okay to be excited, Nathan. Tell me more about your volcano." 15 minutes later, Patricia's voice again. "I think the boys are getting tired. Maybe it's time to wrap up." Oliver. "But we just got here. Can't we stay longer?" Patricia. "Your father has had enough time. Say goodbye." The recording ended with both boys crying, begging for more time with their dad. But Patricia's notes from that visit, completely different. Father appeared agitated and raised voice multiple times. Children seemed overstimulated and anxious. Father encouraged inappropriate behavior, yelling indoors. Visit ended early due to children's distress caused by father's energy. Every word was a lie, and we had proof. Over 4 weeks, we collected 8 recordings. Each one told the same story. Happy children, patient father, and Patricia systematically misrepresenting everything. Recording 3, Oliver. "Daddy, can you come to my school play? I'm a treat." Riley. "I would love to, buddy. Let me check if I'm allowed to." Patricia. "That's not appropriate for you to attend, Mr. Whitmore." Riley. "I'm his father. Why wouldn't it be appropriate?" Patricia. "The school is aware of your situation. I don't think they'd want you there." Oliver crying. "But I want Daddy to see me be a tree." Patricia's notes. Father made demands about attending school events despite custody restrictions. Became argumentative when told no. Child became upset due to father's aggressive tone. The recording proved Riley never raised his voice, never became aggressive. He'd simply asked a question and Patricia had shut him down. Rebecca was ecstatic. This is exactly what we needed. Proof that the supervision is being weaponized. Proof that Patricia is creating false evidence. "Can we use this to end the supervised visits?" Riley asked. "Better. We can use this to show the court that the entire custody arrangement was based on fabricated concerns." But not everything went smoothly. The incident with Nathan at school had consequences I hadn't anticipated. Word spread. Parents talked. And suddenly other children knew about our situation. Oliver came home crying one day. "What happened, sweetheart?" I knelt down to his level. "Emma said her mom said we're bad kids, that our daddy is dangerous." My heart shattered. "You are not bad kids. You're wonderful, amazing, perfect kids, and your daddy is a good man." Then why do people say mean things? Because sometimes people believe lies before they know the truth. But soon everyone will know the truth, I promise. That night I called Dr. Patterson, the child psychologist. "The social stigma is affecting them," I said. "Other kids are saying things. Parents are whispering." "This is unfortunately common in high-conflict custody cases," Dr. Patterson said gently. "The children become collateral damage in the parents' war." "How do I protect them?" "You keep doing what you're doing, provide stability, reassure them, and trust that when the truth comes out, things will change. And if the truth doesn't come out fast enough, then you focus on what you can control, their home environment, their sense of safety, their relationship with their father. Those things matter more than what strangers think. But it still hurt. Watching my grandson suffer because of lies. Then Douglas made his move. I was at the grocery store, different one this time, trying to avoid the woman who'd confronted me before when I saw him. Douglas Whitmore. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. Looking like every rich developer who'd ever tried to buy his way out of consequences. He approached me near the produce section. Casual, like we were old friends. "Mrs. Fletcher, I thought that was you." "Mr. Whitmore." I kept my voice neutral, my hand on my shopping cart. "I've been hoping we could talk. Clear up some misunderstandings. I don't think we have anything to discuss." Oh, I think we do. His smile didn't reach his eyes. This situation with Riley and Zoe, it's gotten out of hand. I'd like to propose a solution. What kind of solution? A financial one. I'm prepared to offer Riley $100,000 to drop this custody case. He gets money to restart his life. Zoe keeps the children, everyone moves on. I stared at him. You think you can buy my son's children? I think I can provide him with resources to build a better life. One that doesn't involve dragging my daughter through court proceedings. Your daughter stole over $300,000 from my son. That's not a misunderstanding. That's theft. Douglas's smile hardened. Careful, Mrs. Fletcher. That's a serious accusation. One you can't prove. Actually, we can. Forensic accounting, bank records, email trails. We have everything. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise fear. Then you're making a mistake, he said quietly. My family has been in Toronto for generations. We have friends, connections, resources you can't imagine. You're nobody here, Mrs. Fletcher. An old woman from Vancouver who doesn't understand how things work. Is that a threat? It's advice. Take the money. Convince Riley to drop this. Go back to Vancouver. Because if you continue down this path, he leaned closer. Accidents happen, especially to people who don't know when to back down. My blood turned to ice, but I didn't show fear. I met his eyes. Mr. Whitmore, I've spent my entire life building things. I was an architect for 35 years. I built structures that could withstand earthquakes, hurricanes, fires. Do you really think I can't withstand you? You're protecting a son who's already lost. You just don't know it yet. We'll see. He walked away. I stood there shaking my phone in my pocket, recording every word. Because I'd learned from Riley. I recorded everything now. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Rebecca's private investigator, a woman named Michelle Torres, had been following Zoe for weeks. Not stalking, just observing, documenting her routines. Michelle called Rebecca one afternoon. Zoe left a diary at a nail salon. Staff found it and turned it in to Lost and Found. I may have convinced them to let me photograph some pages before returning it. Rebecca's voice was sharp. Michelle, that's technically legal if it was left in a public place and I didn't steal it. I just documented it before it was returned. The diary entries were devastating. Rebecca showed them to me and Riley in her office. Entry from 2 years ago. Dad showed me the projections again today. Says if I stay with Riley, I'm throwing away my future. That I could have so much more. Sometimes I wonder if he's right. Riley works so hard on his little tech projects, but what do we have to show for it? A modest house. Modest life. Is this all there is? Entry from 18 months ago. Had lunch with Dad and his lawyer. They showed me the numbers. If I leave Riley now before the business really takes off or fails, I could walk away with everything. The house, the money, the boys. Dad says women always win custody. That judges are biased toward mothers. He says I'd be stupid not to protect myself. Entry from 1 year ago started moving money today. Small amounts like Dad suggested. He says it's just asset protection. That I'm not stealing, I'm securing what's mine. But it feels wrong. Riley trusts me completely. He has no idea. Is this really necessary? Entry from 6 months ago. The lawyer wants me to claim abuse. I told Dad I can't do that. Riley's never hurt me. Dad says it doesn't matter. Says the system is set up to believe women. That I just need to be convincing. He showed me how to fake text messages. How to get friends to corroborate stories. I feel sick about it. But he says it's the only way to protect the boys from Riley's instability. But Riley isn't unstable. Is he? Entry from 2 months ago. It's done. Riley's out of the house. The boys keep asking when Daddy's coming home. I tell them he's sick like Dad told me to say. But Nathan cries himself to sleep. Oliver won't eat. I told myself this was for their protection. But they're not acting protected. They're acting traumatized. Entry from last month. Saw Riley at the supervised visit yesterday. He looked terrible, thin, exhausted, like a ghost. Mom said he's living in his car. I told myself I don't care that he brought this on himself. But I can't stop thinking about it. This wasn't supposed to happen. The plan was just to get the money and move on. Not destroy him completely. Dad says I'm being weak, that Riley deserves what he got for holding me back. But I can't sleep anymore. Riley's hands shook as he read. She knew, he whispered. The whole time she knew she was lying. She was manipulated by her father, Rebecca said gently. That doesn't excuse what she did, but it provides context. Context: she stole my money, my kids, my life. She fabricated abuse allegations. And for what? Because her father told her to. Riley, I started. No. He stood pacing. I loved her. I trusted her completely. And she threw it all away because Douglas Whitmore convinced her she deserved better than me. I let him rage. He needed it. Needed to purge the poison of betrayal. When he finally collapsed back into his chair, exhausted, Rebecca spoke. These diary entries won't be admissible in court. They were obtained through questionable means. But they tell us something important. What? Riley's voice was hollow. Zoe has a conscience. She's struggling with guilt. And people who feel guilty make mistakes under pressure. Rebecca leaned forward. When we depose her, she's going to crack. I can feel it. The depositions began 2 weeks before trial. First up, Melissa Carter, Zoe's friend who'd claimed to witness Riley's erratic behavior. Rebecca was surgical. Ms. Carter, you stated in your affidavit that you personally witnessed Mr. Whitmore acting erratically at a party in June of last year. Is that correct? Yes. Describe what you saw. Melissa hesitated. He was yelling, acting aggressive. People were uncomfortable. Who was he yelling at? I don't remember specifically. Was it his wife? Maybe. Probably. You don't remember if he was yelling at his wife at a party, but you remember clearly that he was aggressive. It was a year ago. Details are fuzzy. Rebecca pulled out a calendar. The party you're referring to was at the Harrington Summer Barbecue. I think so. According to social media posts, that party was July 15th. Your affidavit says June. Which is it? Maybe July. I'm not sure. Miss Carter, did you actually witness this incident, or did someone tell you about it? Long pause. Zoe told me about it. So you didn't witness it personally? No. But Zoe was very upset. She wouldn't lie about something like that. Wouldn't she? Rebecca slid the diary photocopies across the table. These are entries from Zoe's personal diary where she admits to fabricating evidence. Does that change your opinion on whether she'd lie? Melissa's face went white. Trevor Harding objected, but the damage was done. Next, Jonathan Hayes, the neighbor who'd claimed to see Riley threatening Zoe through a window. Mr. Hayes, you stated you saw Mr. Whitmore acting in a threatening manner toward his wife. What did you see exactly? I saw him through their living room window. He looked angry, was gesturing aggressively. Did you hear what he was saying? No, I was across the street. So you saw gestures but heard nothing. Right. Could he have been on the phone? I guess it's possible. Could he have been having a normal animated conversation? Maybe, but he looked angry. Mr. Hayes, how often did you observe the Whitmores through their window? Jonathan shifted uncomfortably. I don't spy on my neighbors. But you were watching closely enough to determine Mr. Whitmore's emotional state from across the street through a window without hearing any words. I just happened to see it. How many times did you just happen to see Mr. Whitmore acting this way? Just that once. One incident, from across the street, through a window, where you couldn't hear anything. And from that you concluded he was threatening his wife. Zoe told me he'd been threatening her. When I saw him looking angry, it confirmed what she said. So again, your testimony is based on what Zoe told you, not what you actually witnessed. I saw what I saw. What you saw was a man in his own home, possibly on a phone call, looking upset. That's it. Correct. I guess. One by one, Rebecca dismantled the witnesses. Their stories fell apart under scrutiny. Then came Zoe's deposition. She arrived in designer clothes, perfect makeup, looking composed. But I could see the cracks. Dark circles under her eyes. Hands that wouldn't stop fidgeting. Rebecca started gently, almost conversational. Mrs. Whitmore, when did you first consider divorcing your husband? About 6 months before I filed. Are you sure? Because we have emails suggesting you consulted a divorce attorney 18 months before filing. Zoe's composure slipped. I was just exploring options. For 18 months. Marriage was difficult. I wanted to know my rights. When did you first transfer money out of BrightPath Solutions' business account? I don't recall the exact date. Rebecca slid bank statements across the table. According to these records, the first transfer was 14 months before you filed for divorce. $500 labeled consulting fee. Do you remember that? I handled a lot of transactions. Let's look at another. $2,000. Marketing expense. Can you tell me which marketing firm received this payment? I'd have to check my records. The account belonged to your father, Mrs. Whitmore. That's not a marketing firm. Zoe's lawyer intervened. My client may have consolidated funds for tax purposes. Tax purposes, Rebecca's voice sharpened. You transferred $330,000 to your father's account in offshore accounts. That's not tax planning. That's embezzlement. Zoe's eyes filled with tears. I was protecting assets. From whom? Your husband who built the business, your mother-in-law who invested her retirement savings, from Riley's poor financial management. Rebecca pulled out more bank statements. These show Riley's personal spending was modest. Rent, groceries, utilities. Meanwhile, your credit card bills show $30,000 in 6 months on restaurants, shopping, spa services. Who was managing money poorly? Mrs. Whitmore? No answer. Now let's talk about the abuse allegations. You claimed Riley sent threatening text messages. Where are they? I deleted them. I was scared. But you took screenshots to show your lawyer? Yes. These screenshots have been analyzed by digital forensics experts. They show signs of manipulation. The metadata indicates they were created on a computer, not captured from a phone. Can you explain that? Zoe was crying now. I don't know anything about metadata. Did you fabricate those text messages, Mrs. Whitmore? No. I mean, my phone was acting weird. Maybe they got corrupted or something. Or maybe they were never real. Silence. Rebecca's voice gentled, almost sympathetic. Mrs. Whitmore, who put you up to this? Was it your father? Zoe's face crumbled. For a moment I thought she'd confess everything, but Trevor Harding called for a break. When they came back, Zoe was composed again. Coached. She stuck to her story despite the contradictions. But Rebecca smiled when it was over. She's going to break on the stand, she told us. When it's not just a deposition, but a courtroom full of people she won't hold up. The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 days in July, 1 year after I'd found Riley in that parking lot. The courtroom was packed. Media in the back rows. Douglas and Patricia Whitmore sitting stone-faced behind Zoe. Riley beside me, his hand in mine. Justice Margaret Holloway presiding. A woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Trevor Harding's opening statement painted Zoe as a protective mother. My client is a devoted mother who recognized her husband's mental instability and took appropriate action to protect her children. She's being punished for doing what any good mother would do. Rebecca's opening was different, quieter, more powerful. This case is about power and control, but not Riley Whitmore's power, Douglas Whitmore's power. A man who has used his daughter to execute systematic fraud, who has weaponized the family court system for financial gain, and who has traumatized 2 little boys in the process. She paused. Let that sink in. By the end of this trial, you'll see evidence of embezzlement, fabricated allegations, and coordinated deception. And you'll understand that the real victim here isn't Zoe Whitmore. It's Riley Whitmore and his sons. Zoe testified first. She described years of walking on eggshells, Riley's alleged controlling behavior, her fear for her safety. But under cross-examination, Rebecca destroyed her. Mrs. Whitmore, you testified Riley controlled all finances, but you were the CFO of Bright Path Solutions, correct? Yes, and you had sole signing authority on the business accounts. Riley had access too. Rebecca produced bank records. These show you changed all online passwords 3 months before filing for divorce, locking Riley out. Why? I don't remember doing that. You don't remember locking your husband out of his own business accounts. It was a confusing time. Confusing enough that you also don't remember transferring $330,000 to your father, the courtroom murmured. Judge Holloway's eyes narrowed. Day 2 brought the expert witnesses. Martin Rodriguez presented his forensic accounting with devastating clarity. Charts showing every fraudulent transfer, proof of offshore accounts, evidence of deliberate theft. Dr. Lisa Patel testified about Riley's therapy sessions, described him as remarkably stable, with 0 concerning behaviors. And then we played the audio recordings. The courtroom fell silent as they heard Nathan's excited voice, Riley's patient responses, Patricia's cold interruptions. Then Rebecca read Patricia's notes from the same visits. The contrast was stark, undeniable. But the bombshell came on day 3. Katie Brennan took the stand. She was nervous, but determined. Rebecca walked her through her employment at Whitmore Developments. "Ms. Brennan, what did you witness while working for Douglas Whitmore?" "I saw him create fake loan documents, move money to offshore accounts, cook books on multiple construction projects." "Did you report this?" "I tried. He fired me and threatened to sue me into bankruptcy. I signed an NDA to make it go away." "Why are you testifying now?" Katie looked directly at Douglas. "Because I saw what he's doing to Riley Whitmore, and it's exactly what he did before. In 2020, he used his niece, his brother's daughter, to marry a business partner. She got access to the man's finances, then systematically drained them. Douglas got most of the money. The marriage ended in divorce. The man lost everything. The courtroom erupted. Douglas stood up, shouting, "She's lying! This is Mr. Whitmore!" Judge Holloway's voice cracked like a whip. "Sit down or you'll be removed." Bailiffs moved toward Douglas. He sat glaring. Katie continued. "When I objected, Douglas told me, 'If you want to steal, make it look like a divorce.' Judges always assume the woman is the victim." Rebecca let that hang in the air. "Do you have proof of this pattern?" Katie pulled out a flash drive. 5 years of documents, emails, bank records, everything. Closing arguments were brief. Trevor tried to salvage Zoe's case. "Even if financial errors occurred, these children need their mother." Rebecca's closing was surgical. "Your Honor, this isn't about financial errors. This is about deliberate, coordinated fraud, about a father teaching his daughter that theft and lies are acceptable if you can get away with it, about 2 little boys used as pawns." She paused. "The question isn't whether Zoe Whitmore loves her children. I believe she does. The question is whether she should have custody of them when she's demonstrated such profound moral failure." Judge Holloway took less than an hour to decide. "I've presided over family court for 17 years. This is one of the most disturbing cases I've encountered." She looked at Zoe. "Mrs. Whitmore, your allegations against your ex-husband are not only unsubstantiated, they're fabricated. The financial transactions constitute fraud. The supervised visits were weaponized." Then to Riley, "Mr. Whitmore, you are clearly a good father. This system failed you, but truth has prevailed. Her ruling joint legal custody, primary physical custody to Riley 70-30 split. Zoe would have unsupervised visits twice monthly. Zoe must repay $330,000 within 180 days, and the case would be referred to the Crown Attorney for criminal prosecution. Douglas Whitmore would be investigated for fraud and tax evasion." Riley broke down sobbing. I held my son while he cried. "It's over," I whispered. "We won." Outside, Nathan and Oliver ran to their father. "Daddy, can we go home now?" "Yes, buddy. We're going home." That night, our little family had dinner together. Real dinner. At our apartment that was finally truly home. Oliver looked at me seriously. "Grandma, are you going to stay forever?" I looked at Riley. At the boys. At this family I'd fought so hard to save. "As long as you need me, sweetheart." "Forever then," Nathan Sarah said. And I realized they'd given me something too. Purpose, family, a reason to fight. I'd come to Toronto to surprise my son for his birthday. Instead, I'd found my way back to what mattered most, and I'd kept my parking lot promise. I hadn't let anything fall.